4 minutes past 12, you are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Assalam Media with me, Mario Makwanda. It's time for our segment with Islamic Care Line, and today we are talking about adolescence and the different stages. Adolescence is a transitional stage of physical and psychological human development that generally occurs during the period from puberty to legal adulthood. Islamic Care Line social worker Shuhaida Adam is joining me to unpack the different stages of adolescence and what they mean so that you, as a parent or a caregiver, can better understand your adolescent. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Shuhaida. Shukran for joining me.
Wa alaikum salam. It's our pleasure to join you on the show today and to unpack such an interesting topic, especially in light of the upcoming parenting webinar that we are hosting, which will be next week. Islamic Care Line is hosting one for parents, specifically relating to adolescence and around the teenage period, and also because it's Youth Month in South Africa. So there's a whole focus on young people, the environment that they are in, the challenges that they are facing. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to just engage with your viewers and your listeners about this. This is such a crucial stage for a young person, for our communities and our country in general. It's such a crucial stage. And as I unpack it, you'll also get to see why Erickson, one of our theorists around human development, why he talks about this stage sometimes being a make or break stage for young people into their futures.
All right. Okay. Now, before we get into that make or break stage, because I do have it as one of my questions as well. Now, I don't think many parents understand or are aware that there are different stages of adolescence. I mean, we didn't even know this. We just thought that once you reach your pre-adolescence and then you're a teenager, etc. Then that's it. But then there's actually like your pre-adolescence, and then there's your adolescence and your post-adolescence. In fact, I didn't even know that a 21-year-old is regarded as an adolescent, but they are. So please unpack these stages of adolescence for us. What are they?
Okay. So look, there's a few theories that therapists through the ages have developed. If we think of hundreds of years ago, there was two stages to a person's life. There was childhood, and very quickly there was adulthood. So there was no sort of in-between stage. Children would be almost regarded as capable of doing adult tasks, capable of working, capable of going off on their own, going off to the big city to seek work. I'm talking about good few hundreds of years ago, around about the same time that we would think they are still a child. So the development and the understanding of the different stages has come a long way. We recognize also that there is quite a gap between childhood and adulthood. So a lot of therapists have taken that into account, and they started studying it and trying to observe children and looking at what exactly do they go through during the stages. And then even from birth, right? Well, therapists looked at what's going to be the experience of the child at a different age. What is something that they would be expected to do in terms of tasks, in terms of learning? What would be regarded as normal for them? And they then divided this into stages. Now you have different therapists who have developed their own different theories around sort of similar ages. So a lot of theories will talk about what you can expect from a child, from a little infant, from a newborn. What exactly does a newborn need? What's the most common behavior? What would they require from their caregivers? What are they possibly thinking? What's going through a newborn's mind? Then they would look at the next stage. As the child grows a little bit older, a little bit around early childhood, let's say about 2 to 3 years old, they are now, of course, they are different to when they were an infant. They've developed a little bit more, they've grown a little bit more, physically they've developed, their mind, something else is going through their mind compared to when they were, of course, younger. So they recognize that we can group this age group, we can put it into a stage also, And after many, many observations and studying children of this age, we then realize that most of them, they start doing certain tasks, and most of them, they start to feel certain thoughts, certain feelings. We then moved a little bit older. Once they start maybe going to school, preschool age, they are, of course, under new influence around there. So all these stages, and understanding the development of a child through these stages, it helps us understand and influence their growth and their development. So when we look at a stage, we always want to look at what is normal for this child, what can be expected around how they think, how they feel, what are some of the physical skills they learn to master at this stage, what are some of their social interactions at this stage. And then as parents, how can we influence it in order to help develop this as best as possible for the child? And what then would we like as the end outcome of this stage? Okay, so the importance of this stage, though, is that each stage builds on another. So if a child at, let's say, they're not able to, around about early childhood to preschool, they're not able to learn how to maybe eat. They're not able to learn how to dress themselves. They're not able to learn, they haven't picked up on maybe how to socially engage with people, how to ask for something. If they haven't picked it up at that stage, oftentimes then they do not pick it up later. Okay, so we look at the stages of development as building onto each other. So, for example, if a child learns how to maybe tie their shoelaces at the age of 5 or 6, they are then able to then move past that. So they're not stuck with a certain task. They're not stuck in a certain stage as they grow older. It's meant to sort of help, it's meant to understand how children progress through their childhood, which of course childhood is where we are teaching them all about the world, and they have to learn about society, learn about themselves, develop skills that's going to help them in adulthood. So that, I don't want to say it's the purpose of childhood, but that's one of the outcomes essentially of childhood. Then, of course, now we're going to go specifically into adolescence. People do talk, yes, starting around about the age of puberty. The age of puberty is getting younger and younger. There are, we know, of course, instances where children around 9 or 10 are experiencing the age of puberty, and then up to essentially young adulthood. So we have to also divide that a little bit. Children in earlier adolescence, they are of course not, their challenges, what they are learning, their world experience is a bit different to somebody who's about 18, 19, who's now completing school and ready to enter the adult world. So adolescence, then we have to divide it into something that's going to be a bit more, make a bit more sense in terms of their development and helping you understand what is normal for that stage. For our purposes today, I want to go a little bit into just adolescence, let's say around about age 12, 13 to about 18, and then young adulthood, aged about 18, 19, 20, up until about late 30s. Okay, so also just to touch on the concept of youth, the definition of youth, there's also quite a few different definitions of youth. The age of youth, oftentimes it's regarded as people aged 16 upwards to about 35, 34, 35, around there. So there's no, I can't say there's truly a right or wrong. This is just people's experiences and people who have done different types of research in different groups who have put this information together, and it can be critiqued. Some of these theories, they don't include all information that sometimes parents feel that they would need. So it's just a theory, but we find it very interesting, and we find that it does help with when we are engaging with people around parenting. One of the first things when parents come is they want to know, is what my child doing? Is this what other children are doing? Okay, so even if they're struggling, they want to know, is this normal for this age? So that's when we look at the stage, right? So if we look at round about 12 to 12, 13, round about 18, at this point, right? So each stage has its challenges. What exactly do we expect the child to grapple with? And then what do we want them to, what's going to be the end outcome? So this specific theory is done by Erik Erikson, and he talks about the impact of social experiences. So how social interaction and relationships play a role in the growth and the development of your child. And then that conflict that I just spoke about earlier, it serves as a turning point. So what exactly are they able to master, what is going to be the end outcome. And once they've developed this, they are then ready to move on to the new stage. It's also not meant to be black and white. They have to find a balance between the conflicts in this stage. They have to deal with this, and then it will give them a resilience and a psychological strength, or they'll call it an ego strength. It will give them a stronger sense of self, which will then help them gain a sense of mastery, help the child gain a sense of, help them improve on their self-esteem, giving them that confidence that I can do, I am competent, I can. And that will then, having a sense of I can is an essential skill for adults going into adulthood. So we talk about developing this competence in this age. They then are able to handle the challenges that come their way as adults. They're able to handle it well, and it gives them a sense of motivation. If you think of a young child also, when they master something, for example, if they're able to tie their shoelaces, or they can zip up something, or when they do well, the thrill that they get, it helps develop that sense of competence. So let's look specifically at adolescence. So during this time, we're looking at developing your sense of identity versus role confusion. Okay, so what we want to do is the end outcome of this. We want the adolescent to develop a sense of who they are, their sense of personal identity, because your personal identity influences your behavior and your development. What your interests are, your sense of self. Your inner strength, your values, understanding, having an idea of what you would like to pursue in the future, and a little bit of developing also a sense of independence. And with that also will we will then develop the confidence to take on our responsibilities. So that is when we have a stronger sense of identity. If we're struggling with the stage, and if young people are in a confused state here, they are then not really essentially able to develop a strong sense of who they are. And that's when you find they may be engaging in so much different interests. And they may also then not be sure where they want to go forward in life, so they choose something that's not necessarily going to be true to who they are, and they will then at the next stage feel quite disconnected from what they've chosen, feel disconnected from the world around them, and even feel disconnected from the people around them. So during this time, young people explore the independence. And what do they need at this point? Identity versus identity confusion. What do they need from caregivers and people around them? A listening ear. They need encouragement, reinforcement of their choices, and space to be given space to make choices. So this also is where parents grapple sort of with giving young people choices here, and then the aftermath of those choices. Because oftentimes, yes, now they're learning about the world. So sometimes they make choices that doesn't have a very positive outcome. And when sometimes parents see that these choices don't have a positive outcome, so immediately the parent loses faith in your young person's ability to make a responsible choice. However, you have to understand that this is the part where they're learning to make the responsible choices. So as parents, of course, you want to shelter your child, you want to protect your child from harm. So what you can then do is sort of engineer the type of choices that your child can make, can have an influence on. Look at types of choices that directly influence them, and engage them in that choice. So have their input, have them thoroughly discuss the choice with you. Recognize also that sometimes they're not going to be able to always think a choice through. Sometimes they're going to be placed on the spot, especially around their peers. They're going to be placed on the spot. Sometimes they get influenced maybe to skip school. Everybody's doing it in the moment. The child hasn't thought about it. So sometimes they are acting quite impulsively, or they're going along with the crowd, and they then learn from their mistakes. So recognize that there will be mistakes. They
All
need
right,
that
Shuhaida,
space
let me
and to
stop
make
you
that
there.
mistakes.
Let me stop you there so that we can take a quick break, but we will continue when we return.
Muslims across the country. Sponsor a winter warmth pack for 280 Rand. Call Africa Muslims Agency now on 011 834 8685. Spread warmth this winter with Africa Muslims Agency.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Give charity without delay, for it stands in the way of calamities. For child-headed households in Bloemendal in the Eastern Cape, the daily diet consists of white bread and a carton of cheap juice or sugar water, known locally as the poppy water diet. Make a difference to that one child or family. The Al-Fida Foundation has over the past 13 years worked on the ground and gathered the largest database in the Eastern Cape region of Muslim Zakah recipients. Phone our offices at 041 484 1288 or visit our website at www.alfida.co.za. The Al-Fida Foundation, your social investment partner in the Eastern Cape.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
It is 12:20. You're listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media. And on the segment with Islamic Care Line today, we are unpacking the different stages of adolescence and why it is regarded as the most critical stage of a life or a development. And with me is social worker Shuhaida Adam. Shuhaida, shukran for staying on the line. You may continue.
Okay, no, Shukran, wonderful to carry on with this topic. I'm going to wrap up at this stage here, right? Just one last thing of how can it be, how does it translate practically for young people? Okay, so young people, adolescents especially, because like I said earlier, it's time of getting to know who they are and being comfortable in their own skin also. We know adolescence is a time of body changes also. So hopefully then through the right support and the comfort and the ease, they will then be very much comfortable in their own body, physically as well. And then vocationally, they are then also, they need the opportunity to start developing a sense of what kind of careers do they see themselves taking on. So with the right kind of information, exposure to different environments, and understanding of their own interests and understanding of the abilities, whether they're more mathematically inclined, whether they're more scientifically inclined, whether it's more, artistic, etc., and the encouragement around that, it'll help them choose a career that hopefully is going to be suitable for them. And then also specifically relating to values, identity, religion, etc. If a young person is able to have a connection with those values. So it's easy enough for us as parents to say, well, this is the religion that we're following, and this religion, it teaches us ABC, right? So that's a very straightforward way of telling young people that this is what we are identifying with and this is what we are subscribing with. However, we want it and we need it to go a bit deeper than that. Young people need to feel a lot more connected than just us telling them about what the faith is about. They need the opportunity to learn more about the faith itself, about the deen itself, if they are of the Muslim faith. A lot of the rationale maybe behind the rulings, behind certain obligations, etc., and an opportunity to connect with the religion itself through social interactions. Social interactions are very important in shaping their identity at this point. And then just staying on social interactions, let's move to the next stage. The social interactions is going to build up onto our next stage, which is the stage of intimacy versus isolation. So young adulthood. This theory says one of the purposes of young adulthood and one of the major purposes of young adulthood is to develop a significant relationship, significant connection with others, because young adulthood, we then want to feel a lot more intimate connections with somebody, and especially a significant other. So usually this is the part where young people are starting to look for a partner to settle down, an exclusive partner, an exclusive relationship. And at this point, if we have not mastered our sense of self, our identity of the previous stage, and if we do not have I would say, a sense of groundedness around the type of person I am, my strengths, my interests, my confidence, and my capability around my capabilities. I would then want to protect myself. And a person would want to then protect themselves from being exposed to other people. So you find then that young people who have not mastered their sense of identity and their social interactions, they would then tend to isolate themselves from social interaction, social opportunities, or they would then just not pursue or not commit to a significant relationship. And that's when you may find, again, as the sage says, isolation. So people tend to feel lonely, they may suffer from a bit of depression, they feel isolated from society, from their families, marginalized. They would struggle with friendships. And this is very significant. Uh, Social interactions as an adult and friendships, it's really significant because our need for something intimate, it's not being met. When our needs are not being met, our psychological needs, we struggle with who we are, we struggle with our feelings, and we may then also turn to harmful behaviors to help us overcome these challenges. Well, we think it's going to help us overcome the challenges, but it's not actually. It's just masking what is something that we have not really resolved. If we do not resolve the challenges of a previous stage, we cannot move to the next stage. So the avoidance of relationships can also lead to severe personality problems. In its extreme, of course, young people who are able to commit to them, who are capable now of committing into a relationship, they then have something that's mutually beneficial also. And there is a reciprocation of emotions, of feelings, of needs, and they are then, there's a confidence also of then starting a family and then developing the next generation. So, of course, as you can see, it's the cycle. So as young people, as we have overcome the previous challenges, our stages, we are now feeling capable and confident enough to start developing the next generation who would have to repeat the same stages of development in order to, of course, continue on with our society and to have our society to and our family members to actually thrive and have a place in their society. Because when we're feeling isolated, marginalized, or often when we're feeling that we are not capable of belonging to a society, it can lead to a host of problems, and often it can lead to individual problems, but then social problems. So as a collective problem, we would face issues like our drug problems, our crime, our antisocial behavior, our harmful, the violence, the disconnect from society, the degradation of society. We would then experience our communities going through that when people don't have a sense of connection and a sense of belonging to a community and a sense of purpose to their development and to a sense of purpose to their day and to their families.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, I'd really like to know why this is the critical period of life, but let's leave this for another day. Please tell us about the adolescence webinar that will be taking place. Just remind our listeners and our viewers of what to expect and how can they go about registering for this webinar.
Okay, so it will be online next Tuesday, inshallah. I believe that's the 21st of June. Tuesday evening, 7 o'clock till 8 o'clock in the evening. So hopefully people are available at that time. One of our counselors will be facilitating it. It's going to be talking about how you as parents can help your adolescent transition through the period. Now, of course, it's a good few years to cover with the adolescent, but we'll cover it as best as we can. It's going to cover, of course, give a lot of information. It's going to be quite educational, sharing with parents what, like I said earlier, a little bit of what is to be expected, and most importantly, what can you as a parent do to influence the stage. And if you are struggling, we can touch on some of the common struggles and some of the common challenges that you might be going through. So because it's online, you will be able to just submit questions online in the chat box. It will be on Google Meets. So whoever is interested, they can contact us on 011 373 8080 or 078 727-1334. You can register and then you will get a link, and inshallah you'll be ready to join 7 o'clock next Tuesday evening.
All right. So, shukran so much for your time, Shuhaida, and for unpacking this topic with us. Still a lot more that needs to be discussed, but we're going to leave it there for this week and continue, inshallah, another time. Keep well and have a wonderful day. Shuhaida Adam, social worker at Islamic Care Line, taking us through the topic of adolescence and just a few points that she raised. And we will be talking about, or we will continue with this topic next week, inshallah, especially why adolescence is regarded as the critical period of life. And, as a parent, you need to be there for your adolescent child because they are transitioning from being a tween into a young a young adult, a teen, and then a young adult. Wow, there's so many titles here. We have teens and tweens and preens and whatever, but there are so many titles out there. So you can also get in touch with us to share your comments, questions, queries, and suggestions. Send them to our WhatsApp line on 061 766 0355. Stay with us. We will be right back.